Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text number 30. Tan vikshya vatarashanam chaturah kumaran Vruddhan dasardha vayaso viditatma tattvan Vetrena chaskhyalayatam atadarhanam sto Tejo vihasya bhagavat pratikula shilo. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The four boy sages who had nothing to cover their bodies but the atmosphere looked only 5 years old, even though they were the oldest of all living creatures and had realized the truth of the self. But when the porters, who happened to possess a disposition quite unpalatable to the Lord, saw the sages, they blocked their way with their staffs, despising their glories, although the sages did not deserve such treatment at their hands. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The four sages were the first-born sons of Brahma. Therefore, all other living entities, including Lord Shiva, are born later and are therefore younger than the four Kumaras. Although they looked like 5-year-old boys and traveled naked, the Kumaras were older than all other living creatures and had realized the truth of the self. Such saints were not to be forbidden to enter the kingdom of Vaikuntha. But by chance, the doorman objected to their entrance. This was not fitting. The Lord is always anxious to serve sages like the Kumaras. But in spite of knowing this fact, the doorman astonishingly and outrageously prohibited them from entering. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So we are reading about the four sages entering the Vaikuntha. They have crossed the 6 gates and come to the 7th gate. And at the 7th gate, they have been stopped by the doorman. And naturally, they are very upset about that. So this verse is talking about the doorman, Tan Vikshya. The doorman saw Chaturah Kumaran, the four Kumaras. And how were they dressed? Vatarashanam. Their dress was just their vata. Vata means the air. So the air was their dress. Rashanan means something that you wrap around the body. So what had they wrapped around their body was just the vata, meaning they were naked. Vatarashanams chaturah kumaran. And they were Kumaran, means about 5 years age. But Vruddhan, they were very old. Vruddhan, Dasardha means only 5 years. Dasardha vayasaha Vruddhan. 5-year-old, very old people they were. Like that. They were Dasardha vayasaha Vruddhan but viditatma tattvan. They were vidita atma tattvan. Atma tattva means the truth about the self. Vidita, they were aware. They were realized souls. They knew vidita atma tattvan. Vetrena cha askhalayatham. Vetrena, with staffs, with whatever the doormen were holding, they stopped them. Askhalayatham. Atadarhanam. These great sages who were viditatma tattvam, they did not deserve this kind of a treatment. It's being stopped. Askhalayatham. Vetrena askhalayatham. With sticks, with staffs, they were stopped. Thou, those two, tejo vihasya. The sages had great, wonderful qualities. They were powerful sages. Tejo, vihasya. But somehow these doormen did not regard their great position, their great accomplishment. They neglected. Tejo, vihasya. Bhagavat pratikula shilo. And they behaved, their behavior, shilaha, was Bhagavat pratikula, was not in line with the Lord's thinking, Lord's disposition. Bhagavat pratikula shilo. Lord is inclined to serve the sages, but somehow these two doormen took upon themselves or exhibited a certain shila, certain behavior, certain character, which was Bhagavat pratikula, contrary to the Lord's thinking, Lord's nature, having a nature displeasing to the Lord. Bhagavat pratikula shila. So, the four boy sages, Chaturaha Kumaran, who had nothing to cover their bodies but the atmosphere, Vata Rashanams, looked only 5 years old, Dashardha Vayasaha, even though they were the oldest of all living creatures, Vriddhan, and had realized the truth of the self, Vidita Atma Tattvan. But when the porters who happened to possess a disposition quite unpalatable to the Lord, Bhagavat pratikula shilo, saw the sages, tan vikshya, they blocked their way with their staffs. Vetrena askhalayatham, despising their glories, tejo vihasya. Although the sages did not deserve such treatment at their hands, atad arhanams. So this is the verse, that they were stopped by the doormen, the sages who were actually very realized, very advanced spiritually, and they did not deserve this kind of a treatment by the doormen. And the doormen exhibited a certain nature which was contrary to the Lord's own nature, although they were in the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport the four boy sages. They were actually sages, very realized, but by their mystic power, they had this kind of they were always Dashardha Vayasaha. They were always young boys. And so they were stopped by the doormen, not realizing the greatness of the sages. So here the sages have been described as those who are viditatma tattvam. Atma tattvam. The word Atma actually means the self, myself, yourself, oneself, self. And here it is said that they had Atma Tattvam, the truth about the self, they had realized. Just like, for instance, when we wear this shirt or a sweater or something, it becomes part of ourself, right? It is me. So in the Vedic literatures, an important thing that we try to understand is, who is this self? What is the truth about myself? Actually, we hear and read in Srila Prabhupada's books that there is a soul, there is a mind, there is intelligence, there is false ego, there are senses, the body, Panchabhuta. But actually, if you see carefully, all of them work in a unified, in an integrated manner to give us an experience of ourself. Right? We don't make any distinction. Like say for instance, there is a man who goes to watch a cinema. So on his way he buys a packet of popcorn and a can of Coke. Right? Standard things. And then he goes and sits in the cinema. Lights go off. And the cinema begins. He's popping popcorn into his mouth, chewing, munching, and then watching the cinema. And then something serious is happening. Focused on that. Some fear. The scenes are very fearful. He's having that fear. And then the story is progressing. He's understanding the story. This is going on. And then sometimes some comic relief is there. He is laughing, popping the popcorn, drinking the Coke. See, the whole experience that he is having is a unified experience. Emotions, eating, drinking, laughing, understanding. All that is complete experience that we all go through in the world. It's a complete, unified way this whole system is working to give an experience to ourselves. And we say that, wow, it was a great movie that I saw. And the popcorn was so good. And so on. Right? But actually, from the Vedic literatures, we understand that there is the senses interacting with the sense objects. Then there is the mind which was experiencing fear, comedy, and the intelligence understanding all of that. And the experiencer was the soul. This is the whole understanding. This is called Sankhya, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature. Sankhya means counting. It simply it is very similar to the word analysis. Analysis means, lysis means to break down something whole into its component parts and understand. That's what we are doing to our own self. We are trying to understand this self. I exist in this self, I move around. What do I move around with? My body, my mind I carry everywhere. Now I am breaking it down into its component parts and trying to understand there is the gross body made of Panchabhuta, there is the mind, there is the intelligence, there is the false ego, and there is the soul. But actually the self is, what we experience in the material world is an integration of all of these working in great unison. And that's what is giving us an experience in the world. We don't see that, we don't see it in a differentiated manner when we are experiencing normally. That's the way it is made, to give us that experience. But the truth is, our selfhood is not at the level of the body or at the level of the mind, at the level of the intelligence. It is at the level of the soul. That we have to understand and realize. And these sages had Vidita Atma Tattvam. The truth about the self, they had realized. Actually, this is one of the wonderful things that Srila Prabhupada has done. To articulate some of the greatest truths of the Vedic literature in a very simple, straightforward manner. One of the first things we learn in Krishna consciousness is, we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. You can go and meet any big spiritualist in our country or anywhere in the world. You can go and meet any big scholar. They would not have realized this simple thing. As Prabhupada has taught, we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. Different from the body, we are that spirit soul. This is such an elegant expression of a spiritual truth given in the Vedic literatures, but missed out by most people. Although they are reading scriptures, they may be great scholars. I've talked to some big scholars also. Even they don't have this understanding, the way Srila Prabhupada has presented the spiritual truths. We take it for granted because we read, hear so many times about that. We are not the body, we are spirit soul. But actually it's a very significant spiritual truth. Not many people have even theoretically understood it this way. They may be following a lot of maybe sannyasis and so many things they are following, maybe reading scriptures and all those things. But this simple truth, in this way as Srila Prabhupada has given, which is there in the Vedic literatures, is missed out by them. So very special. Now, how is it presented in the Vedic literatures that Srila Prabhupada made it like this? We are not the body, we are the spirits. There are actually many places. One of them in the Bhagavad Gita is the 7th chapter, where Krishna explains, Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kamano buddhirevacha ahankara mitiyam me bhinna prakriti rashtada. Right? 8 elements of this body. And in the next verse, Krishna says, Aparayma itastva anya. Apart from these 8 elements, which included the Panchabhuta, the mind, intelligence and false ego, aparayam itastva anya. Other than this is my higher nature, Prakritim Vidhi Me Param, Me Prakriti Param. And what is that? Jiva Bhuto Mahabaho Yayedham Dharyate Jagat. See how neat it is? This is where Prabhupada's explanation is coming from. The Jiva Bhuta, the existence of the Jiva, is anyam, apart from these 8 elements which make this body. So neat, how nicely Srila Prabhupada has taught these things. Another verse in the Bhagavatam which talks something about this is Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke. Here the word used is Atma buddhi, even more direct, this verse is. Atma buddhi. Actually the word, we usually think buddhi means intelligence. Yes, it means intelligence. But here, there are a few other meanings of the word buddhi. Here it means conception or an idea. Atma buddhi means the conception of the self, our understanding of the self. So that's exactly what we are talking about. What is this self who is watching the cinema, eating the popcorn, experiencing all? Who is that who is experiencing all this? Where is my real self? I'm wearing this shirt. This shirt also has become part of myself. One day I take it off and hang it somewhere. Oh, what happened to myself lying there? No, that's not part of myself. Myself is this. Right? So myself, now I want to understand where my real myself lies. Is this in the body? Where is it? Where is the self lying? Is it in the heart? Is it in some other organ in the body? No, it's not lying any of there. Is it the self lying in my thinking? No, even your mind is not the self. Some intelligently I understand certain things, that intelligent working, is that myself? Even that is not myself. Myself is at the soul level. Why all this? Why am I thinking this body is myself, my intelligence is my mind is myself? I think like that, that's the influence of the effect, that's the effect of ahankara, which creates this misidentification. So, yasya atma buddhi. Atma buddhi means my understanding of the self or the idea of the self. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke. Kunape is a bag. Tridhatuke means three elements. Generally the body is described as three elements are there in the body. This is a Vedic understanding. Also in Ayurvedic understanding that there is kapha, pitta, vayu. Bile, mucus and air. This is a bag of tridhatuke, tridhatu. These three elements. So this is a bag. It's a skin bag. It has got three elements in it. One who thinks that this bag of three elements is Atma Buddhi. Yasya Atma Buddhi Kunape Tridhatuke. Who thinks that this body is myself. That's what the verse is talking about. Yasyatma Buddhi Kunape Tridhatuke. Swadhi kalatradishu. The word dhi and buddhi has very similar meaning. In the first line, the verse talked about Atma Buddhi. In the second line, the verse is talking about Swadhi. Atma Buddhi, conception of myself. Swadhi, conception of mine. That was mine, this is mine. Atma Buddhi, Swabuddhi or Swadhi, the conception of what is mine. Kalatradishu. Kalatra is my wife. Adishu means children, house, horses, cows, whatever, etc. We have all those. They are mine. This is how the conception works. Mine and mine. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadhi kalatradishu bhauma ijyadhihi. Ijyadhi, another word is used here. Ijya means worshipable. Ijyadhihi, conception that something is very revered and worshipable and very special. What is that? Bhauma ijyadhihi, where I was born. That place where I was born is considered very special for me. I am related to that place. I am related to Bangalore. I am related to India because I am born there. That's a very special place for me. That kind of a thinking. Why it is coming? Because this body was born there. All of this is actually our conceptions. Atma Buddhi, Swadhi, Ijyadhi. Similarly, Yatirtha Buddhi Salilena Karhichit. Next, the verse is talking about Tirtha Buddhi. Tirtha means holy place. So what is considered as a holy, what is the conception of a holy place? Yat tirtha buddhi salile nakar salile. Salila is water. One who considers water to be the most important defining quality of a holy place, and neglect janeshu abhigneshu. Actually, the most important thing in a holy place is janeshu abhigneshu. There are abhigna janaha. Abhigna means enlightened. Those who are very enlightened people are in a holy place. That is what makes the place holy. But not regarding the holy men in the holy place, but considering that water is important in it. Water makes a holy place a holy place. And I must go and take bath, and I have had a fulfillment of my visit to a holy place. And not listen to the enlightened people who live in the holy place. Such a tirtha buddhi, somebody who has got such a conception of tirtha. Yat tirtha buddhi salilena karna janeshva bhigneshu karhichit na karhichit janeshva bhigneshu sayeva gokaraha. Such people who have this kind of a conception that their self is the bag of three elements, the conception of theirs is their wife, children, house, etc. All these things are mine. Who think that ijjadihi, very worshipable, is my place where I am associated with. Tirtha buddhi, a holy place is just the water. And disregard abhigna janaha, enlightened people who make the holy place so special. Such people are sayeva gokaraha. Their intelligence, their thinking is like that of a gokaraha, like a cow or an ass, donkey. Very low conception, not a proper understanding. Just see. So from all these kind of words, there are many verses like this. Even the verse dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara praptihi. In the same way, you will receive another body. Who is receiving? The soul, Atma. Atma was transmigrating kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara prapti. So like this, very carefully, this articulation that we are not the body, we are a spirit soul, is a result of a careful deliberation of all these innumerable verses in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Vedic literatures, which has been presented to us so simply by Srila Prabhupada. This is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's expression. So, that is why Prabhupada was very, for Prabhupada to explain any of the Vedic literatures, he would make it so simple, so clear. That was a characteristic of Srila Prabhupada. Takes a verse, explains it, and gives a purport, and analyzes the purport, the verse from different angles. Prabhupada was so expert in doing it. Once, Srila Prabhupada revealed something which, as devotees, we should know and always remember. It happened in one temple, in Los Angeles temple, one late afternoon. Prabhupada called one of the GBCs who were present there. Prabhupada called the GBC, and there was one Prabhupada servant. Only two of them were there. And then Prabhupada was just recollecting that so many temples are there, and how Krishna has blessed us with so many temples, and these temples are so nicely maintained. He was just appreciating what has happened. This was around 1976. And then Prabhupada said, the 6 Goswamis, they were writing books, but they were living under different trees in Vrindavan. They were living under the tree and they were writing books. I am also writing books, but Krishna has provided nice palace for me, palace-like temples for me to write. And then Prabhupada said something very significant. Krishna wanted me to write his books, to go to the material world and prepare his books. And I told Krishna, no, I will not go to the material world. It's a horrible place. Prabhupada made an expression like that. It's a horrible place. I don't want to go to the material world. And Krishna said, no, you must go. You must go and write my books. No, Krishna, it's a horrible place. No, I will make all arrangements for you. You must go and write books. And that is how Krishna has made wonderful arrangements for me to write these books. And the devotees, 2 devotees who were there, who heard this, were stunned, because Prabhupada was saying that Krishna told me to go and write the books. Very, very rarely Prabhupada had spoken of such things. And so Krishna sent Prabhupada to write books about the Vedic literatures. And very early, his spiritual master noticed Prabhupada's very special ability, that he was able to articulate all these Gaudiya Vaishnava thoughts in English in a very simple way. Because already Bhaktivedanta Thakur had written many books. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also had written books, mostly Bengali and some in English also. But still, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's English was not so easy to understand, and he would speak very high philosophy. Even Bhaktivedanta Thakur's explanations were all very important, relevant, but still it required another level of simplification for people of Kali Yuga all over the world to understand. And then Srila Prabhupada came. And soon after Srila Prabhupada left this world, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left this world, Prabhupada started preparing the Back to Godhead articles, writing, publishing. And then at a certain point, when he left home and he left his family and even took sannyas, and then he was staying in different Gaudiya mats of his god brothers. Even at that time, he had big plans. Bhagavatam should be written in 50 volumes. Chaitanya Charitamrita, 18 volumes. Bhagavad Gita, this way. All these different literature, Prabhupada was already having in the 1950s or early 1960s, late 50s. Prabhupada had all these ideas. But of course, there was no opportunity at that time. He could just barely publish the first canto in 3 volumes. And later on, if you see how, although Prabhupada was traveling extensively, he would spend the night writing books. Writing books. And he gave so much importance for writing the books and translating and publishing these books. He was, at some point, Bhagavatam was going on in the night, and in the afternoon he was doing the Krishna book. There was another occasion, another stretch of time, Prabhupada was doing Bhagavatam, he was doing Chaitanya Charitamrita simultaneously. He was in great anxiety to write these books. Spent late night, early morning, from 12 midnight up to that age, up to 5 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, Prabhupada would be writing. It is said that even on 14th of November 1977, a few hours before Prabhupada's passing away, he dictated the last purports of the 13th chapter, 10th canto. On the very last day. So this shows the very special position of Srila Prabhupada. Sent by Krishna to write his books. To make it understandable that the final essence, the truth, understandable. And Srila Prabhupada gave so many books, and very meticulously, word by word, he has translated, given a translation and given the purport. Very, very carefully done this. And Prabhupada also said, one morning, early morning when Prabhupada was translating, there was some disturbance outside. He called the devotee who was cause of that disturbance. He said, please don't create any disturbance. This is a very serious work. Every word I have to think carefully and translate. Because these books I am writing for the next 10,000 years. This is the care, this is the concern with which Srila Prabhupada presented. Because he was sent by Krishna to write these books for the next 10,000 years. To guide the human society. That is why we should read very carefully and appreciate Srila Prabhupada's words and his explanations, because it is not just something ordinary. This is very special. Through the ages, how the parampara has been, all the great acharyas in our parampara who have captured that real understanding have been passing it down. And that Prabhupada, in English, in a way that we all can understand, has presented it. This is the special contribution. This is the special feature of Srila Prabhupada's books. So we should not take this lightly. Books are very important. They have to be read carefully and understood. And also Prabhupada wanted us to give this, to distribute these books more and more. So we see this, how Prabhupada has explained all these wonderful concepts of Atma Tattva so very nicely. And one last point. Here, a very important question comes. These doormen who are residents of Vaikuntha, why did they Bhagavat Pratikula Shila? Why did they exhibit a behavior in nature which was contrary to Lord's own nature? Bhagavat Pratikula Shila. Why did they do that? They are in their spiritual world. They are supposed to be pure devotees. They are supposed to be surrendered. Why are they behaving Pratikula Shila, Bhagavat Pratikula Shila? So that will be explained.